Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Phoenix Club.
Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Phoenix Pod.
I don't really know what I was going for. I got a little bit overexcited.
It's a new episode of the Phoenix Pod. I'd be excited too.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
And so you should be.
Yeah. Just an exciting recording.
I am, of course, your host once again, AXC, joined by a man who is half a man.
Ooh.
Nearly there.
That was nearly perfect.
Nearly there. We're getting there. It's only taken us what?
Well, we did it at the podcast last Christmas when I started giving Funkle the beads because we actually got it like in sync.
Yeah, but that was in person. To be fair, that was a lot easier.
Yeah.
We don't have lag. We don't have lag and ping to deal with.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know,
it's more skill when you're doing your podcast over a Skype call.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's an art, shall we say? You get the timing right.
And the other voice you can hear. Oh, I said your name yet? No, I haven't, have I?
No, not yet.
He's a man who is stupid. He's allegedly sexy, and he's called Flinders.
It's stupid, sexy Flinders, and I feel like I'm wearing nothing at all.
Nothing at all.
Nothing at all.
In fact, you should feel like you're wearing your yellow jacket tonight.
I should be, yeah. I do sort of. I find that classicist because I'm wearing glasses and I am not Matthew Kelly.
You're drafting vibrant colours though.
Oh, I am. To be fair, I am wearing sort of like high visibility colours because I'm currently wearing my retro. Well, can we call it retro? Blackpool FC shirt. Yeah, it's a decade old. It's the old Blackpool shirt that they wore in the Premier League, complete with Premier League badges.
I was going to say, you mean your name is not Mohammed?
My name is not Mohammed, but
or Mahatma.
Mahatma, yeah, maybe Mahatma or Mahmood. Yes, I'm certainly not Emmanuel.
And the other voice you can hear from the RID podcast and the Lost Arts of WrestleBox, it's Lewis Ogden.
Yeah, all right.
How's Val doing?
We're
doing fine. See, that's how you get it in sync, Coxy. That's how you get it in sync.
Unfortunately for you, it wasn't in sync because once again, lag and Skype.
Lag and Skype.
Shit all over it.
Fuck. Well, it sounded in sync from where I was sitting.
We need Discord. We need Discord.
I've tried Discord. It didn't work for me.
Yeah, it was a bit like this pandemic, a complete and utter bastard.
Well, I said to Bunkle, I was like, if you can have a look at it and set up, and he's like, yeah, we'll do. And he's like, I'll just make Coxon do it.
We say, ask Coxon. He knows all this magic wizardry. I'm not talking about D&D here. It's just Discord in general.
I've looked into it, but then I set up what it was said to do, and it just didn't seem to work for me. So I don't know whether it's something I did or something Discord did. But
I wouldn't get me to do it because we all know what me and technology and sort of what the result happens of that. Either computers die or software just seems to just not work. Full stop.
To be honest with you, there's a saying that sets up this situation. Stay
in your lane. Yeah, I was going to say don't give Paul a leading role in a podcast.
I was just going to say stay in the lane because, Skype's been relatively consistent for us for all the stuff we've been doing.
Oh, yeah, it's been a fantastic... Skype is a fantastic safety net. You know, it's got all the things that you need for a podcast inbuilt in it, but it's not the best quality, shall we say. I'm going to call it the Asda cornflakes. The Asda cornflakes. It gives you a good...
I was going to say it's the Ron seal of,
the Ron seal.
contacting technology. It does exactly what it says on the tin.
Yeah, I'll go with that actually. Well, the way I was going to go was it's the Asda home brand cornflakes. It's not the shittiest cornflakes that they do, but the ones that they got their own name on, they're all right. Discogs your Kellogg's though, in quality.
Well, you get what you pay for, so.
No comments.
So this is this week we're looking at episode 4 of That Peter Kay Thing as part of our That Peter Kay Thing series before we move on to season 2 of the Phoenix Nights. And this week we are travelling to Manchester Arena.
Yeah.
Or as it was formerly called, the Manchester Evening News Arena.
Yeah.
Ah, yes, memories.
This was mentioned in the commentary saying it was the Manchester. There was like a contract sort of thing that was signed until 2015, and he said in the commentary to whatever it's going to be called after that.
Yeah, he said something like the Manchester Arena or the something arena, like Manchester Arena, whatever it's going to be called in 2015. I had to listen to like running back going, so I'm sure this came out in like 2004.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I seem to remember it was like the Manchester Samsung or like Manchester T-Mobile Arena or something like that. Because like literally the first note I have here in my little notepad, which I do for like all my podcasts, is literally MEN Arena memories. Because the most recent one I went to was sort of back end of the year, where I went to a Madness concert, which was, well, it was sort of like in the title really. It was quite mad, to be honest with you, because it's like 10,000-15,000 people sort of like singing along to Madness, and I'm there just sort of like going, yeah, I know a couple of the songs, just sort of like don't know their extensive back catalogue.
No,
but,
I've got images now of 15,000 people jumping up and down, just singing baggy trousers.
That's pretty much what it was like, man. Pretty much what it was like.
That sounds fucking amazing, by the way.
It's definitely an experience. It was an experience, sort of like being in that crowd. I mean, like particularly when I went off to the bogs and sort of like coming back, sort of being stood at sort of like the midpoint in the stand, the seating area bit.
Yeah.
And sort of like looking over at sort of like the great big massive crowd of people just sort of like bouncing along. It's sort of like it's an experience that you get from sort of a live crowd. But my main like really great memory about it was me. This is when I was still talking to my dad. It was when myself, my dad, half sister, and sort of like the partner he was seeing at the time went to like a great big massive charity gig, and there was like all sorts of like musical acts sort of like there. And actually, it's quite topical. Actually, Peter Kay made an appearance in this sort of like this gig that we went to, and there was sort of like this like raffle competition, just sort of like and they made sort of like raffle entries as sort of like backstage passes, and the main prize was like an all-inclusive holiday to Sharm el Sheikh in Egypt. My half sister actually had the winning raffle ticket, so we ended up having sort of like a week and a half all-inclusive in Egypt, which was a pretty darn good holiday. So that's obviously that's a fairly positive memory for me from the MEN Arena or the Manchester Arena.
See, I've only been to see comedy gigs there. I've been twice, and it was both to Russell Howard gigs, which were fun.
I've lost count the amount of times I've been to Manchester Arena for wrestling gigs, comedy, you name it. The first time I ever went there though was in 2004 for the very first retapings in the UK when they did Raw and SmackDown.
Oh yeah.
And it was like October or November.
It's usually around about November because it's usually around about the time of my birthday, because I remember I think it was 2014 when they did Raw and SmackDown tapings in Liverpool. I actually went to that as part of sort of like my birthday present dealing my bob. And I was literally about to say, sort of like, I've no like wrestling show experience in Manchester. It's literally all sort of like Liverpool based. Because like I remember my very first wrestling show that I ever went to see was WWE in 2009, and they actually had a main event of John Cena and DX, which was Shawn Michaels and Triple H, against Randy Orton and Legacy. I don't know why, sort of like that sticks out quite a bit, because it was like one of the very first events of sort of like when the Liverpool Echo Arena very first opened up.
Oh yes, I remember that. Never went.
It's not a bad arena, to be honest with you. I mean, it's not as grand or as big as the MEN Arena, but it's like it's a nice little arena to go to.
I don't need to be.
I think the MEN's, I think a full capacity, I think it's 21,000.
Yeah, it's sort of like it's the 20,000 bracket.
The Liverpool Arena, I think, is 15.
It's not that big. It's about 10 or 12,000.
Big enough.
Yeah.
It's big enough. I mean, at the time of when they were making this episode that we're reviewing today, the MEN was the biggest indoor arena in the whole of Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it was a big deal.
I don't even think at that point they'd set up the O2 Arena yet.
No, it was still when this was being filmed. I think the Millennium Dome was still being built.
Yeah.
So it wasn't it wasn't anything. It was just a shell, a big white shell.
So yes, original air date was the 2nd of February 2000. Set in the Manchester Regions Arena, this episode follows the staff and customers preparing for a Super Sounds the 70s night. The incompetent Matthew Kelly. Try saying that for a lisp. The incompetent Matthew Kelly is employed as a steward, having only applied for the job in order to see concerts for free. He gets hassled by live sex trainers Chris and Sean, and he's angry when he says stewarding the concert, you're left in charge of the car park.
Oh, absolutely. And as we're introduced to Matthew Kelly as he's walking through, he says, Matthew Kelly, he's going to be tonight. And I thought to myself, oh, that's got to be a rip-off of Stars in Your Eyes. It has to be.
For me, it's kind of that thing, though, like this one opens with the shot of the infamous like Manchester Arena stairs, which everyone has climbed at some point in their life. You've either all right, apart from you, but like everyone either rocketed it up them or they've like just struggled to the top. And there's that thing with you get that the voiceovers, Manchester Arena, and you see you see someone climbing the stairs and there's like a fade cut, and he's a few more stairs up, and you see another fade cut. And he's a few more stairs up, and he gets the top. But who is that man? It's Matthew Kelly. Finally making it to the top, he asks the cameraman if he has any oxygen, and he says, "I don't fancy doing this every bloody day. I tell you that much." It's the first day of a new job for Matthew Kelly. As we reveal it, it was revealed that he will be a steward at the arena, aka a yellow jacket.
Yeah.
And according to the commentary, a lot of this is based on real people and stuff from when Peter Kay worked at the actual arena himself back in 1996. I think he says in the commentary.
Yes, it was in the mid-90s. Can't remember the year, but it was mid-90s. And a lot of it is based on what he had to experience while he was working at the MEN.
There is other tidbits as well from interviews and stuff I've seen on what's he called, Jonathan Ross now, which I'll get into later.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have a live sex seminar with Sean and Chris. Sean is played by Peter Kay and seems to be sporting the same teeth from episode 3, The Ice Cream Man Cometh.
Yeah.
Whilst Chris is played.
Sorry, go on. There is sort of like later on where they had sort of like do an interview with the live set guys, and on the commentary, I think one of the guys asked Peter Kay, "Are them the teeth that you use in Coronation Street?" Because don't forget, he had a role in Coronation Street for a little while with Peter Kay, and he turns around and he says, "It's not them teeth; it's the teeth that Mr. Softy had. He used in Coronation Street."
Yeah, but from look, he did actually.
I was going to say they sort of like they did seem sort of like similar dentures to the ones that he wore as Mr. Softy Top
Yeah.
in the previous
They're
episode.
exactly the same ones, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But funnily enough, he did actually appear in Coronation Street, I think, 3 times.
There was a few episodes, yeah.
It's only a couple that I remember.
Was he like a restaurant owner or something?
No, there was one where he appeared. He was like in someone's house. He was like bringing some furniture in or something. He turns and says something to whoever's house it was, and then walks out. And there's another one where he appeared as like characters for like a couple of different characters for a couple of episodes, as like someone like a blind date or something like that. And from what I remember, so. Plus, not to mention the fact that I served him in the Rose Return. Well, I served his missus, his wife. But that's another story because I can't really discuss work.
Lovely claims to fame.
Yeah, we should probably make mention as well, sort of like LiveSec. They're just basically looked at as sort of like a team to come in and teach. Excuse me, the Yellowcoats, or sort of like the staff in charge of like crowd control of
health
the
and safety,
arena.
yeah.
Just basically health and safety, crowd control, all of that malarkey.
Yeah. And there's some reason when they start doing the seminar, there's a cock drawn on the blackboard.
That also carried over to the Berlin one, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Getting back on track, we have Sean and Chris. Sean played by Peter Kay, as I previously discussed, whilst Chris is played by Neil Fitzmaurice, best known for playing Ravon in Phoenix Nights, and other characters throughout that Peter Kay thing.
Yeah, sported a different look.
Yes, complete with pedo tash.
Yeah.
So they're running for the final day of training, which is how to conduct a complete and thorough body search. Thank you, Sean. Now, anal probes. Where and how to use them in a crowd situation.
Which, amazingly, we don't sort of like see in action when the eventual gig that happens in the second half of the episode happens. Which I thought you would have been quite interested to see. Just sort of like a case of, excuse me, sir, can you just come this way to this little area? We've got him back.
And you just see some big metal rod just go behind the curtain.
Or it's just sort of like in that episode of Top Gear where they go sort of like through the Chilean border, sort of like, we went through the proper procedures, and it's just a shot of the building outside, and all you can hear is Jeremy Clarkson in the background going, "Bias!"
There's that one of the Grand Tour as well where they had to like I can't remember what they had to like get out of some like a film like an action sequence with a helicopter or something. It was like them against like a group of like terrorists. That's the quotation fingers. And the bit where Jeremy sometimes like end up like stuck in a wall, and he's like, "Oh no, something's happening." You don't see it from behind. You just left to assume that he's evidently getting bummed or something.
Oh no.
So, well, funnily enough, in the commentary as well, with when this is happening, Peter does discuss that there was Sean and Chris are based on 2 actual guys who came in to do the training, and they'd done it that many times that they were literally finishing each other's, like waiting for the next one, the previous one to finish, and thank you, Sean. Thank you, Chris. Like, because they've just done it that many times, they know the full spiel inside out. Like, they just had each other's lines memorized and that. So
yeah, they were just like they were like handing over to each other quite a bit, sort of thing. It's like they'd literally say one sentence of, "Right, Sean, right, Chris." Yeah.
But then we get a sort of close-up interview with Chris and Sean with, "Well, I came out of prison in '85." And he's like, "Oh, well, no, I wasn't inside." And it's like, I was a prison officer.
Casey Burns? Or Tracy Burns? Tracy Burns?
Sean reveals he used to box at flyweight.
Wow, looking like Matt Lucas.
Which even Paddy and what's it called?
Craig Cash.
Craig Cash both sort of scoff at, like, "Well, flyweight." They reveal that they work all over the world and they're going to Berlin next after Manchester. along with some of the acts they work with. Whilst Chris reckons he once saw Cher's arse, but Sean denies it. Says, "Oh, it was a Chris. It was a dancer. It was a dancer." Yeah. Oh no, definitely no. It was a dancer.
Oh God, I don't know why you want to see Cher's arse.
After that, we get Matthew and other creatures lining up for a quick coffee break, whereas one woman can't press the sort of hot drink dispenser. She's trying to figure out, and Matthew sat there sort of jittering, like, I best help her, it's pissing me off.
And he just proper slams the top of the thing, so I'm like, there you go. And the woman just takes a step back, like, what the frick?
Yeah, Matthew looks at this job as sort of like a free chance at seeing sort of like free gigs, sort of like, it's a piece of piss. Just have to stand there and just sort of like watch gigs. This great big massive arena. It sounds freaking piece of piss. Really.
Yeah, he's like, so you get paid for doing nothing and watching shows.
Which, fun enough, people used to think that's what I used to do at the Odeon. People would always come in and be like, "Oh, I bet your job's easy. You just stand there and just like, bet you just watch films all day." And it's like, no, we do more than that, mate.
No, we shoot
but I could do your job.
Right. But no, it's a lot more to it than that, as you evidently find out later on in the episode.
Oh yeah. My notes have just kicked me off. There we go. I'm back.
Hey. Technology.
Yeah. So yeah, we get the interview with Matthew saying he's technically an actor as he's landed the role in Oliver.
Yep.
Along with the fact that it's next week they've got Elton John, which he says he's going to put his name down for. As the cameraman asks him, "Is it casual work?" He's like, "Sorry, casual?" And he's like, "Casual." Oh yeah. It's like, you're really flexible. I've just been cast in Oliver. And who you play? I'm playing Mr. Bumble. You know, you want more? You more?
More?
You want
along with
more?
saying it's an all-star cast, including Lulu. And if you're playing a certain drinking game, you best take a shot now. As Bob Carroll G's gets a mention again.
Yay!
Damn it! I've drank all my lemon cordial.
So I'm fucked.
But yeah, we find out who Bob Calgary is going to be. He's going to be Fagin, and Spit the Dog's going to be Bullseye. Oh no, is it Bullseye? And yeah, no, it was Bullseye. But who was he playing?
Okay, it wasn't Fagin. It was someone else.
Fagin.
I can't remember who. But
not Bill Sykes, is it?
No, it might have been Sykes actually.
I think it might be Sykes. If that's the case.
I think it's Sykes.
Whoever has Bullseye the dog.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Sykes.
Yeah.
So, back with Chris and Sean, they're discussing cameras and mention no food or drink unless on proven medical grounds, which is a bit of foreshadowing for later on in the episode.
Aye.
Then they begin to discuss one of their pet hatreds, flash photography, and how disruptive it is.
Spelt wrong on the board.
Then mention Elton John is somewhere in Europe during Candle in the Wind. As one person wanted to get their photo, flash, bang, hit him as quick as that. And it's quick as a flash. Which had like all three, Paddy, Craig, and Peter, all just pissing themselves on the commentary, saying he flew into Nikita and then into Saturday Night or something like that. Oh, look, he had the backing band with him, so he was all right.
It's like Nikita, Rocket Man.
All sad songs.
Just sort of like, thank God for his backing band, because they just sort of like, they played along and just sort of like made it pass it off as if he was doing a medley.
Yeah.
Well, funny enough, there was an interesting tidbit with Peter Kay, because there was one point when he was on Jonathan Ross like many moons ago, and he was saying about when he was in he was on holiday when he was in Las Vegas, funny enough. So whether this is the same time that he did the first script and had to go drag his wife around looking for somewhere to fax it off to. And he was saying about, I got up, I had a Bailey's, and I thought I'd get up and sing. He said, but before me, there's this German air conditioning salesman called Hans from Dusseldorf. and he got up and he started singing "Candle in the Wind," but it wasn't the Norma Jean version. It was the Anna version. And he's like, oh, I can't say Anna. He's like, my nana, she can't say Anna. Can't say anything either. She'll burn if she says lesbians.
They're both lesbians.
Lesbians.
He does this whole bit where he said he stood there and this guy's singing "Goodbye English Roses," going, "Oh God, here we go." But it gets this bit later on in the song, and he said he said, "Yeah, we've still got Hans doing Candle in the Wind," but then he goes, he's still there. It seems to me you live your life like a candle in the wind.
Oh no.
Then he gets the whole bit about the rain. He's like, "Oh, it's always that fine rain soaks you through."
Fine rain soaks you through.
Oh dear.
Fuck's sake.
But then back with Chris and Sean. Men search men and women search women. Now I know there's some men in here who'd like it the other way around, but hands off.
Hands off.
To absolute silence.
They discuss bag searching and frisking, and then go on about building a rapport with visitors, such as asking the favourite team, who's your favourite singer, and if all else fails, show the magic fun trick.
Magic fun trick. So like Chris attempts it, and then he just sort of like goes, "Yeah, Sean, you do it. You're better. And it's just sort of like more. It's basically exactly the same thing. Just sort of like
He's more bent over. That's pretty much it.
More bent over, and it's a bit sort of like more shaking, as if he's doing some sort of like extravagant like jazz.
He's having to use force to pull it off.
It's when Chris says it though, and he's like, "Can you see that at the back?"
Do you see that at the back?
Then he goes, "Oh, Sean will do it. He does it better than me." And he's like, "There you go." And it's all right. Any questions? Yeah. Can you frisk children? As they both just stand and look at each other confused.
Not only did Chris and Sean just sort of like stand there dumbfounded looking at each other, the entirety of the room just goes silent, which they have sort of like all through this sort of like lecture from like the live set guys, but it's like a very sort of like, it's a very particular sort of silence where like if a pin dropped, you could probably hear it.
Yeah.
It's like that awkward silence, just sort of like, has he said what I think he's just said? Yes, he has.
Yeah, it was one proper horrible sort of like silences you never ever want to be a part of.
Peter said that he sort of like he jokingly says that it actually happened in the commentary. But he says, "Oh, the guy was sat there in a Macintosh, like he had a tash and a Macintosh on." Or something.
Yeah. A tash and a Macintosh.
So then we appear outside a house now as we hear "Ladies' Night" by Kool and the Gang, as the voiceover reveals two attendees, Nadina and Carol. Nadina is played by Linda Thornhill and was in Brookside as Janice Evans for 12 episodes, whilst Carol is played by Jo Enright, who of course appeared in season 1 of Phoenix Nights as Beverly.
Yep, Singles Night. Check it out on the podcast feed.
Yeah.
You're not a bloke, are you?
Won't be long now. Things I'm gonna do to you. Yeah, I was gonna say sort of like the actress who plays Adina, like her face is sort of like very recognisable, but despite the fact that she only appeared in, was it 12 episodes of Brookside?
Yeah, I thought that.
She's in 12 episodes of Brookside, and she appeared in a couple other shows for like, she was in Coronation Street for like 1 or 2 episodes. She was in another show for like 8 episodes, and then it was just like the odd bit part, but she hasn't really done anything. Like, she's pretty much best known for that Peter Kay from Alien Brookside. That's her main sort of 2 roles.
Yeah, because she looked more recognisable than probably filmography would lead you to believe.
Yeah, I thought she looked familiar, but I couldn't quite put my finger on what she'd been in.
Yeah.
And I can't even say I've watched Brookside. It was before my time. Obviously, I'm aware of Brookside. You know, it was on telly when I was growing up, but never watched it. And it got canned before, you know, probably, I don't know, probably for the best. But I wasn't aware of that. So yeah, I can say I'm with you. I mean, she looks really recognisable. It's like, where have I seen her from?
Yeah.
But it's like, I can't figure out where it is. Like you say, she looks more recognisable than her actual filmography would suggest.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
Yes, we have. We've come to discover Adina's never been to a concert before. This is her first time, whereas Carol's been to a fair few. She runs through a list. Then we got a quick montage of them getting ready and discussing 70s music and the clothing and that sort of thing. Then see them wandering the streets of the bus stop all dolled up in wigs and 70s gear.
Oh, God.
Was it Carol? Carol makes mention of sort of like some of the people that she's been to see. Wet, Wet, Wet was one of them. Lionel Richie was another one who she wasn't expecting would be. He was quite good. I was actually quite surprised. And then she went to see Simply Red, and literally Dina's just sort of like, do you remember the Simply Red concert where the stand collapsed?
Fell.
The stand collapsed. She was supposed to be on that. Just sort of like, that was God's work. That was God's work. That.
Oh God,
that sort of reminds me of sort of like the Peter Kay joke. I think it's the Bolton Hall one. Or just sort of Coxy knows which one it means. Of the of Connie when she's the funeral of Connie when she's being lowered down, when the casket's being lowered down into the ground. Ray shot up on the grave. Chris said that was Connie. That was Connie's work.
Oh, was it about someone was talking about Billy or something? It's like, he loved cheese and onion crisps.
He loved cheese and onion crisp. He loved cheese. He loved cravers. He loved cheese and onion crisp. And I swear, when they were lowering Billy's coffin into the graveyard, I swear, and to Christ, empty packet of quavers flew across the cemetery.
That were Billy. He were there.
That were Billy. He were there. And it was sort of done in the same way. It was God's work, that, because if you'd been on that. But I loved as well, just sort of like, they're all, Adina and Carol, they're all tarted up for this, super sounds of the 70s night. Try saying that with a lisp. And, this proper, like, ultraviolet wigs, sort of, short jeans, like tights,
Flares.
leggings, flares, eyeliner, sort of like, all bedazzled, like makeup all over the face. And I think it's Carol that makes the judgment of sort of like, when they sit down at sort of like the bus stop, just waiting for their bus to come. And she's just there, just sort of like going, I love dressing up for these sort of like these 70s shows, but I think it's like really wrong when people are being like proper judgmental and nasty and sort of like treating you as you're a student. And it's she probably make mention of sort of like when Adina and Carol sit down at this bus stop, they sit down on the bench next to this elderly couple who are just sort of like, they have to shift you up and they're sort of like squeezed in and they're a little bit sort of like, shifty-eyed and uncomfortable, sort of like, these rapscallions. And then like it cuts to the next shot and there's like a great big massive line of sort of like people all lining up for the same coach, this like great big massive 70s night. And I found it quite funny, just sort of like, when the comments being made, sort of like, well, people can be really judgmental and nasty. This old couple just literally walk out from the bus stop and just literally sort of like walk off.
Shaking their heads.
Shaking their heads and just sort of like giving snidey looks and that. Just thought it was like a lovely, it's a lovely small little touch that was really, really good.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder how long they were waiting, because that couple was there when they were only left just before the coach pulled up.
Yeah.
So, and also Carroll's Coke bottle seems to last all the way to Manchester Arena.
That is true, yeah. Everlasting Coca-Cola. We need some of that shit.
And talking of the coach, and who is at the driver's seat?
It's Utah!
Utah!
Second throwback to the pilot episode. We had Matthew Kelly as the first one, but it's Utah, the coach driver, and he literally opens up the door and everyone's there just going, yeah, woo! And Utah's there.
Jesus, what do you look like?
What do you look like? And then it's the next line that gets me. Just sort of like, he goes, God, you see some sights when you don't have your gun.
But then we're on the coach. Utah has a mic. These are the rules. If you're going to be sick, you mop it up yourself. If I'm mopping bucket back there.
I've no repeat from Gladiators.
We also have a chemical toilet on board. If you're going to use it, no solids. We're pulling the services later.
And then is there like a little cut before he goes on to sort of like the next little bit? Or
no, it's literally, I think, straight through, because then he's like, no bottles, no food, and no booking him out with emergency exit. It's not a toy. We have one young leg bounce out on route to Torquay and now fed through a straw. But
I don't know why, but that like properly got me. Just sort of like, I'm just at the image of a kid just sort of like bouncing down sort of like, I don't know, like the M1 on the way to sort of like Cornwall.
Bouncing into Bolton Services.
But it's just when he's like, any questions? And then one of them just goes, can we put this tape on? He just goes, what's on it?
Exactly like that as well.
And it's all 70s disco tunes as well.
Oh, yes.
You can tell it's making Utah's skin crawl.
The coach carries on down the motorway as Le Freak by Chic plays and the bus is partying. The cameraman interviews Carol and Adina. Carol, what are you going to do tonight? And Carol's like, I'm going to get absolutely hammered. And Adina, what about you, Adina? Oh, I'm on tablets.
She's having a course.
So then Carol says, oh, I am too. But then Adina says, hey, Memphis, turn the music up. Back with Matthew, everyone's suiting up and donning the yellow jackets.
They're all getting the name tags.
Well, Chris says something about, oh, I told him to wash it before he put it back or something.
Fucking hell.
But then Chris goes to give Matthew his name badge and we hear, there you go, Mohammed. It's not Mohammed, it's Matthew Kelly.
Matthew Kelly?
I've got Mohammed here. No, it's Matthew. It's definitely Matthew Kelly. That's my name. Did you give it to the woman over the phone? Yeah, I gave her my name. Do you not sound like Mahatma?
Mahatma. Maybe Mahmood.
We got any more names?
Oh no, you don't look like an Emmanuel, do you?
Oh yeah, that.
Sure, we've got more names in the box. No, that's it. Oh well, he's going to have to be Mohammed.
And he's literally just there, just sort of like going, well, don't worry, because hopefully, if you
work hard enough,
they won't remember your first sort of like the name that's on your badge.
They'll remember you.
But funnily enough, the Mohammed thing is a true story from when Peter's case first worked at the MEN, and his name badge for 6 months was Mohammed. Because he didn't have a Peter badge.
Oh dear.
So back on the coach, we have Working My Way Back to You by the Spinners. Utah looks displeased with the choice in music. And then we see an army of yellow jackets wandering the walkway of Manchester Arena. Back on the coach, Utah turns the music off with disapproval from the passengers. And he starts playing country music, saying to himself, proper music, this. Whilst the passengers chant on as Utah looks in his mirror, saying, shut up, to himself. Which, funnily enough, reminded me of an old back and forth battle between the two older projectionists that we had when I worked at the island. As one of them worked like Tuesday to Saturday, we would have CDs on of like either film soundtracks or like bloody like dance music. So it'd be like Sandstorm and stuff like blasting through these screens, which for like a horror film and that was all right. But then the other one would come in at the weekend. He'd do like Sunday, Monday, and he had this bloody panpipe music playing. And he stood there sitting in one of the screens going, "This is the proper music you should have on." And it's like a fucking panpipe Eternal Flame. Like for bloody like some horror film on. It's like, what the fuck's this shit? Like, so we see Matthew in the arena seating area, being shown how to evacuate in case of a fire. But he's more enthralled in the music. He's having a bit of a dance. But what song is it playing? I hear you ask, listeners. It's only "Burn Baby Burn" by the Tramps.
Burn Baby Burn, Disco Inferno. Burn Baby Burn, but burn that mother down. And I love the fact that just sort of like, Chris and Sean are sort of like the tier down below. So they're just sort of like looking up and they're just going, Kelly, there's, the flames are coming. There's a baby that's been left up on the row up there. Go on, go and get it. Go on. You look like a constipated owl.
Hello. Funny enough, in this bit, Chris reminds me of an old PE teacher I had who used to stand like from a distance. He could tell who everyone was. He'd stand there eating. He'd have like a full-on raincoat on him, pissing down. He'd go in one pocket and pull out a pork pie, then go on the other and pull out a Mars bar. And you'd hear him just go, "Get a move on!"
He's got like a proper fucking top shop in his coat.
Yeah, I can just imagine him chucking Mars bars at students. Just digging them. Move it!
But, so we have Chris telling Matthew there's a baby in the third row who needs saving, as he also reminds him, "Remember, smoke kills in seconds, fire kills in minutes."
Keith Lark gets about, doesn't he?
Just a bit.
He literally sort of like hops from one row to the next without sort of like going around the walkway, and you literally just hear, "Don't climb over the seats."
Back on the coach, Utah is playing "The Devil Went Down to Georgia" by the Charlie Daniels Band, and the passengers look less than enthralled. Utah is also strumming along whilst driving.
Proper tune, though. Proper tune.
Peter Kay did also reveal that he wasn't actually driving in the scenes where it looks like he's at the wheel. He's actually sat behind the driver. He doesn't have a PCV license.
No, they just film it looking like he's driving. He's actually pretending.
And then, so back with Carol and Adina. We're midway through a conversation of Carol saying, "Well, he got sent down for 6 months, but I still get the occasional birthday card." As Adina notices Utah speeding and remarks that he thinks he's in the Wild West. "Hey, Memphis, slow down."
And literally, it cuts to the next shot is just sort of like inside the coach looking outside the window of like Utah's been like pulled over by the busies. And literally the only thing that was missing from sort of like transitioning from one shot to the next was literally just a case of a sound effect of going, "Woo! Woo!"
Yeah, the only thing missing. Completely agree.
So, yes, we have Utah talking to the cop who says, "Any idea how fast you were going?" While he tries to play off, it's these boots, it's the heels on them. Proper snake skin. You can't gauge it.
And anyway, these kind of vehicles, they're limited. They're limited to like 56 miles an hour. And then
it's better than that. He goes, "They have limiters, so they can't go above 56 miles per hour.
Unless you disconnect it."
Says the policeman.
But it's just the way he says 56 miles per hour rather than per hour.
Yeah.
Didn't notice
that. Another officer finds a revolver and Utah is arrested whilst being ready to riot, saying, "What's my trigger finger?"
It's a replica.
It's a replica. Scare the kids.
But if you do also watch it back again, as noted in the commentary, the actual arresting officer is reading he's got like the bit next to him, like behind Utah.
Yeah,
so he's literally looking at the coach going, "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you do say," and all that bollocks.
Yeah, I giggled at that. I go there. You can actually visibly see the copper looking over to his right, where his lines are sort of salad. Well, they must be stuck to the bus, just hidden behind Peter Kay, and he's just like, "Oh God."
So then we're back in the arena, and it's going to be a busy night for medic Duncan Beach.
Hey, Duncan Beach.
Duncan Beach, otherwise known as Spencer.
Yeah.
Played by Daniel Kitson.
Or if you need like a reminder of who Spencer is, he's the on the very opening night of sort of like the Phoenix Club, he's the very first DJ, and he's known as going, "Let's get ready to rumble."
19.
He's walking in the air. Walking in the air.
Listen to his high voice.
Well, he's walking. He says he's walking, but he's actually flying.
So Duncan is interviewed about the job and about being paid.
Yeah.
Whilst he said he isn't paid, but people coming round, well, regaining consciousness makes it worth it. They see me patrolling, great. St. John's are here. I'm going to enjoy this next song a little bit more, knowing that I'm safe.
I love the next bit where he's just sort of like goes, "I can handle any medical eventuality, providing it falls within certain parameters."
Oh, and he can't administer paracetamol.
No.
Well, so we end up back with Matthew, who briefly is walking with another bloke. He's regaling him with how he just got a party in Oliver again.
Yeah.
And then we're straight back with Duncan showing us his tools of trade. He's like, "Oh, I've got gauze, lint, cooling gel." But then stops us. "I'm first aid, right? So, I'm first on the scene to administer aid." Just to tie things over until the big boys get here. And it's
Big boys?
Paramedics.
I don't, they're just, ambulance men, but with uniforms. Sort of thing.
They don't say something like jumped up
ambulance men, yeah.
In big coats or something, I think.
Yeah. I'm struggling to get the exact quote, but yeah.
So Matthew is en route to Hunt's back to take on the duty of frisking people. Adina and Carol show up. Adina gets in no qualms, whilst Carol gets frisked and is told, "You can't take this drink in." Well, she's got a small bottle of Coke and a small bottle of vodka. She has a drink of Coke and decides to pour the vodka in the bottle.
And then loudly throws it to the ground.
Well, ever defiant is Carol. She tries entry again, this time claiming she's diabetic. The staff member looks reluctant until Matthew gives the nod and lets her in.
Yeah, have you got proof? We do have proof.
Which isn't the first time he's very lenient with the rules.
Yeah.
Sort of letting people into certain areas.
And then, so we get Duncan asked about his worst ever gig. He mentions, "Oh, it's my first one. Pope John Paul at Eaton Park."
Pope John Paul in Eaton Park. Talk about getting chucked in it at the deep end.
It got me thinking, if there was a God, maybe we'd provide better seating arrangements. Maybe a drop of rain.
So we then get a montage of Matthew walking the arena space along with directing people different blocks, including such stuff as, "Yeah, you can take your drink in, no problem." As a clip of, we also get a clip of someone evidently mentioned the name badge, and he said, "It's Matthew actually," but they gave him a hammer because they haven't actually got a name badge. Carol and Nadine are trying to start a Mexican wave to no avail. We get more Matthew, more Mexican wave, and a couple others joining in, and then Matthew gets mobbed by a group of women who want to get a better view, and he reluctantly lets them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're literally trying to get on sort of like, they're in the seating area bit and they're trying to get in sort of like the standard area
floor,
bit.
yeah, onto the floor.
And they're literally just there, just going, "Oh, come on, Mohammed, let us through, let us in."
We've got vertigo.
I've got vertigo. And Matthew's literally there, just sort of like, looking very cautiously side to side. And he's like, "All right, go on in." And he literally, I think he gets like a peck in the cheek from sort of like one of the girls that goes through.
Yeah, the first one there, the one that was pleading the loudest.
Yeah.
Yeah, she goes, just gives him a massive peck on the cheek, and then they just all scamper past him.
Mm.
So then Matthew's backstage is given a very important job, which is placing bottles of water on stage. On centre stage,
God.
though. He never been asked a few times where they're going, and he's told, centre mic on stage. As it on stage. Followed by, will you move, Mohammed?
Yeah, because he'd sort of like, he's got to take these two great big massive like two little bottles of water up onto the stage, and sort of like he's moving like they make mention sort of like the voiceover guy is sort of like, oh, he's getting a little bit of stage fright, sort of like, you know, taking these bottles up, and he's literally just sort of like, you know, tentatively going up onto the stage, and sort of like you hear the guy in the back just like, come on, Mohammed, will you move? He just sort of like goes there, places the bottles down, sort of like goes, sort of like puts his arm up in the air, sort of like G's the crowd up. The crowd
cheering, yeah.
And as he's coming off stage, he's sort of like going, did you see that? Did you get a look at that? That's much better than Oliver.
So then we get Carol and Adina clapping along to chants of We Want the Show. Adina takes a sip of Carol's Coke, then moments later she's been wheeled out by a yellow jacket with Duncan in tow.
Yeah.
Classic line from Duncan of, hey, slow down, I'm losing her. As he bashes the thingy into like the side of the door.
Yeah.
The cameraman asks Duncan what's wrong with her, and he quips him, well, basically, she's had too much too soon. What happens is they get overexcited, it lowers the blood sugars. I've seen it 1,000 times, it's the same old story.
Expert Duncan
here.
Duncan tells Carol.
Expert Duncan, but I'm just sort of like, I'm glad. I just think back to like Flinders Stag Do, just sort of like the fact that none of us went sort of like too hard too soon.
No, we didn't go too hard too soon at all.
We were quite conservative.
Yeah, we were restrained. We're quite restrained. Yeah.
Up until like pub number 8 or 9, or whichever one it was.
I think we got to pub 8. I think 3 of us got to pub 9, but most of us got to pub 8 and just basically. I think we got to number 10. I think. Oh, was it 10?
We struggled to number 10, and it was like, right, we've got. Oh, it might be 9, and it's all right. We can either do like 10 and 11, or just go straight to number 12. And everyone was like, "We'll go to 12, mate."
Yeah, we'll go to 12 because we were dead. It'd be night all day, to be fair. But yeah, I think the one previous to that, we were pretty much queuing up to projectile vomiting at Lou. So all of us were.
I didn't, to be fair, but
you were the only one that didn't, I think. You can actually hold your beer.
Just about.
I can't. How I managed on the wedding, I don't know.
I can, as long as I sort of like stick to one kind of drink, as in sort of like, you know, for example, sort of like if I'm doing sort of like a lager night, as long as I stick to just lager, I'm absolutely fine. But if I just sort of like mix my drinks, that's when the alarm bells start going off.
I don't know how I managed on my wedding. I was drinking fucking everything. I mean, before we even arrived at the venue, I'd drunken like we had when we went to the Metallica gig, we had Enter Night beer, and we got some ordered in for the wedding the morning. And I had one of them, and then Xander gave me a hip flask full of frigging rum.
Kraken.
And Kraken, and I was drinking lager and all sorts. I think I was practically pissed before I got up to the altar, essentially. So that was fun. And then I steadily got more drunk as the day went on.
You didn't trip over your words though, so that's the most important thing.
No, I fucking slurred them instead.
Well, the thing is, just sort of like with a wedding ceremony, there's only two words you need to. There's only 2 words you need to memorize to, you know, epic degree, and that's I and do.
Yeah, fuck memorizing the speech and reading that shit out.
So Getting back to the show, Duncan
Yes.
tells Carol to stand back as Adina's still saying, "We want the show. We want the show."
You're going nowhere.
Carol opts to go back into the show and says she'll come out and check on Adina, as Adina begs her not to leave, but she's off.
Yeah, show started fuck that priorities, you know.
Literally, Duncan just forces Adina's head back down between her knees.
So it's like a boom down.
There's a very specific reason why sort of like Carol leaves Adina sort of like leaving. It's just sort of like because you can hear sort of like in the background sort of like great big massive sort of like 70s music start off, and you can sort of like see her give sort of like a shifty eye look of just sort of like, oh, the show's starting. Oh, but do I really want to leave? My best mate is like, yeah, I do, because I want to get the show seen.
Yeah, I've paid me money. I'm here. I might as well enjoy myself.
So the show is up and running. Matthew tries to sneak a look in. As he does, he gets caught by Chris. Kelly, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just on my break. Well, I'll give you a break. One of your legs. Yeah, you take that, thank you very much. As he hands him a yellow outdoor jacket.
It's people
Get down to the car park.
Need relieving, and he walks towards the camera. You just hear him going towards the camera. Freddie Mercury.
What about the concert? What about it? Go on, Snell.
Oh yeah.
Well, I don't know. It's just sort of like whether it was a misinterpretation from sort of like the subtitle bits, Flinders, because like you hear sort of like Freddie Mercury on the sort of like the subtitles bit, sort of like Matthew as he's sort of like going towards the camera bit, sort of like makes a comment of sort of like moody, very moody. And then you just hear from behind sort of like Chris going, "Got my eye on you, Kelly," and then sort of like off camera you can hear Matthew just sort of like go, "Yeah, you're not too bad yourself."
Book and filth, sir.
So back with Adina, she sat with Duncan. The cameraman asks how she's feeling, and she's like, "I think I'm all right. I want to go in." But Duncan, you're going nowhere. So he tries to defy him, stands up, and immediately just lands back on her ass and falls over.
Yeah,
Duncan just looks at the other staff.
Yeah, she just falls over and slams on the bench, and she's like, it's not even sort. It's like, I'll get up, and it's like, boom, straight down.
Duncan just looks at the other St. John staff member. They both just shake their heads.
Oh, dear me.
We get a brief snippet of the audience dance along to Sister Sledge, We Are Family, as Matthew's down the car park. A man approaches and asks, "Excuse me, do you work here?" And he just replies, "What do you think?"
She always reminds me of sort of like a Lee Evans show, because just sort of like, whenever you're in a shop and sort of like someone comes up to you and they go, "Excuse me, do you work here?" And you're like, "Fuck off." And then you just sort of like, as they walk away, they give the sort of like look as if you should work there, just sort of like, and then you just feel like you want to turn around and just sort of like go, "Yeah, I do work here. Now fuck off, you're barred."
Tempting. That's tempting.
So a quick fade, and we see Matthew in the car park still. He's reciting Oliver by himself with more. You want more? A co-worker turned up and Matthew asked where he's been, and he said I've been watching the show. Whilst Matthew says, "Oh, since shite all because of you," and rushes in just as he realises the show is finished and everyone's cleared out.
Yeah, pack it up.
The voiceover guy just makes a comment of just sort of like going, Matthew finally makes it to the auditorium. And then literally just sort of like he walks out sort of like into the bit of just sort of like seeing the entire arena just sort of like empty. And it's just sort of like the voiceover guy makes a comment of, "But he's too late."
Yeah. And you just hear it's like, "Oh, piss."
Carol's back with Duncan asking for the whereabouts of her friend. Duncan says she's gone. Duncan
Adina's just gone off.
Yeah,
Duncan's like, "Oh, it's like a needle in a haystack," and Carol's just like, "Just shut up, will you? Just shut up, Adina." As Duncan just says, "You're not going to find her." The stewards then have to do a final. The stewards have to do a final security check as the credits roll. Sean is looking on again like a skinny bald Fludder impersonator.
Fuck.
the stewards are all pretty much in sync apart from Matthew, who's like severely lagging behind, looking miserable. He's missed the show. Sean shouts up that he wants to go home, and Kelly, as he's walking past, is giving the V's. Chris is like, "What's it? What?" I think, yeah, Chris is like, "What's he doing?" He's like, giving the V's. Giving the V's back.
I'll give him the V's.
And then next week, Adina is somewhere near Carlisle at a service station. Sean and Chris are in Berlin reading German off of cards and show them the fun trick.
Yeah, and you actually see the actual payoff for the dick on the chalkboard, where he's actually stood in front of the cock and it actually, it's right engulfed around his head.
So I was just about to say as well, sort of like the fact that Adina's ringing up from a service station saying that she's sort of like in the middle of sort of like Carlisle. I was wondering if this was maybe a throwback to the pilot episode.
I thought so.
Isn't it sort of like the manager of the service station makes a comment about sort of like a passenger that got on sort of like the wrong bus and ended up at sort of like the other end of the country?
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. So it might have been sort of like a very subtle callback to the pilot episode.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, maybe.
I just love sort of like this. It's obviously sort of like this. The next week preview. Obviously, you've got sort of like Adina ended up in Carlisle. Lasek is doing their sort of like their course in Berlin. And then obviously you got sort of like Matthew Kelly, sort of like outside the door of some like locker room. He's just sort of like going someone off camera. It's just sort of like,
is it wound back? Is it wound back?
Is it wound back? Is it wound back? Right, come on, quick.
It's coming now. It's coming now. Take it now.
Puts his head sort of like round the door frame of this sort of like dressing room. And as the door opens up, it's sort of like, it's meant to be sort of like Elton John. So they managed to get a snapshot, and you just hear off camera, Kelly.
You just see like Elton John's panic stricken.
The door slams closed. We just hear Matthew say, "It's all right. He's got a pacemaker."
And that's the last thing you hear.
And that's the arena.
Yeah.
Oh God! Now,
I've got to tell you, lads, I did sort of like after watching The Ice Cream Man Cometh, I sort of did a watch of sort of like the couple of episodes that we've got to look at in this little podcast dealing with Bob. And I remember liking this episode, but I didn't think it would be as quotable as it has been.
No, I'd say
that's sort of like up the quality of this episode, because I actually really quite enjoyed this one.
Yeah, I did. Like I said, I didn't really enjoy the last episode because apart for me and the Ice Cream Man Cometh, it was more like the outbursts I found funny. Sort of like that's the thing I sort of like thought. It was not really much to it, but for this, it was sort of like there was a few ongoing little storylines going on here and there, and a lot of quotes that were funny and memorable. And I just found it it was a lot more enjoyable overall, this episode, in my opinion. Probably one of the better ones, if I'm honest. Not as good as the Bingo Hall, but
No.
Eyes Down, I think that's the best one so far.
Yeah.
But definitely up there.
Yeah,
Fantastic episode.
Yeah, this is really good. I mean, like, if I'm sort of thinking of me rankings at the moment, this is sort of like it's competing with The Ice Cream Man Cometh for sort of like that second spot in terms of sort of like enjoyable episodes I've watched for that Peter Kay thing. Because I don't know what it was. I think it was just maybe sort of like that. I enjoyed sort of like the callbacks to the pilot episode, although I didn't really enjoy the pilot episode that much. I enjoyed that there was a little bit of a continuation from it and sort of like an expansion.
Yeah,
sort
like
of
you used ideas from this pilot.
Yeah, and sort of like an expansion on sort of like some of the characters that you've seen in the pilot episode. And I don't know whether there's sort of like the writing of that expansion of the stories of the people that we see in this episode was like quite effective. And plus sort of like, there's so many sort of like quotable lines from this episode that just made it that much more enjoyable for me.
Like that one we missed out, we didn't mention, was there was a woman comes up to not Peter Kay, because that's obviously the actor, Matthew Kelly, who says, are you around here? He says, no, I'm on the other side, I'm a hologram. It's just things like that.
Yeah.
Just you'd think so just normally it would be just a throwaway line, but it's things like that because they're really funny and they're really quotable. It's just little bits like that. It's things like that I enjoy. So yeah, I really enjoyed this episode.
Watching it back like yesterday and yesterday and today, it was okay. Like I think I preferred like the in the club. I think because like for me personally, I think I enjoy the first 3 episodes that Peter Kay thing compared to like these second 3 a lot more. I don't know why. There is still like the odd decent joke and stuff in them and the odd decent one-liner, but I prefer the first 3 episodes. So
nothing wrong with that.
But it is like it's a strange one though. Like if they were to show like that Peter Kay thing on TV, they'd have to show you the services, kind of to get you the used to Utah and Matthew Kelly. Otherwise, you watch him like, okay, this guy he's working in the arena. Like this guy's a Western coach driver. Like
why?
I think the context of the jokes would be lost. And you wouldn't get that sort of throwback, like foreshadowing in previous episodes and stuff.
Yeah, possibly.
That makes sense.
But yeah, it was an alright one. Like, but the amount of times I kept sort of like Utah appears, but I originally wrote it as Memphis because Adina keeps calling Utah Memphis, and I kept starting to type MEM several times, and no shit, it's Utah.
Yeah, I thought for his brief period he was on this episode, I thought he was quite funny and memorable. You know, the bits and bobs, like the bit where they go, oh, I only got it so I can scare the school kids. It's like, yeah.
Well, the other interesting tidbit with the arena is that when Peter did work there, he mentioned in an interview or something once that he was working. I think it was Take That.
Wet.
No, he was working when he was actually working there. He was working to Take That event.
Oh, right. I thought he worked wet as well. Unless he's done both.
He probably has done, but he said he was. I remember him saying he did Take That, but he wanted to go down and watch it, and I think it was Gary Barlow, one of them anyway, one of the big names, and apparently he wasn't actually in. He was like Matthew, he's not actually in the show, so. He went around the arena telling different people, all right, you're on your break, you can go on your break now. And he was taking over them so you can get down at the front. But of course, you've got to stand like with your back to the actual show. And you're not meant to like react to anything. So we stood there and like one of the big Take That songs has like the big like finales or whatever. It's the I can't remember which song it is, but he said, oh yeah, there's like this song, and he's like, I'm stood there, and like going, oh my god, this is amazing. Because he does actually, he mentions it on one of his tour DVDs as well, like one of the newer ones. It's like the tour that's not a tour or whatever, or Back on Nights, whatever it's called. And there's one of them where Gary Barlow does actually come out at the end, and they do like a bit together.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah, right. The more you know.
Interesting.
I have to look that up.
But it probably also does factor into his film remake he announced like 10, 11 years ago, where he wanted to remake Die Hard.
Oh yeah.
Shot for shot and script for script.
I'd love to see.
Set in Manchester, but it was going to be called Die Well Hard.
Or is it Nakatomi Plaza? It's the Hilton.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
It's like I'm going to be playing a security guard at this thing in Manchester. I got picked up from the airport, and he goes through it with Jonathan Ross. It's fucking hilarious. But he's like, oh, I've had serious talks with like Universal or whatever, but it's never come to fruition. So
Oh, that'd be fucking amazing. Fucking Peter Kay in a bleeding white vest, crawling through vents.
Don't know if you noticed, but I'm big boned.
That guy gets shot in a wheelchair and just instead of saying, "I've got a machine gun, ho ho ho," he'll just have written on it, how have you know I'm disabled?
Ho ho ho.
P.S. I now have a machine gun.
Oh, there'll be some point where they'll just pay it. They'll just go, hiya.
Yeah, instead of yippee-ki-yay, instead of yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker, it says, "How's we doing?"
I know he's like quoting bits of it, and he even says, "Oh, I'm going the whole hog of it. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker." There's like a bit where he gets like Jonathan Ross in a headlock. He's like, "I might be a security guard, but I'm not taking any shit."
Oh God Almighty!
Oh dear. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh God! If only we could have Ray Von as the main bad guy, that would be amazing.
Ray Von with like a German accent.
Yeah. No. He's got to have his actual accent. He's got to be in
No,
character as
yeah.
Ray Von.
No.
He's got to still be Ray Von. Put your guns in, put your hands in the air, or you may die. Shabba.
Or you just sort of like you work it in a way of just sort of like, you know, Ray Von is the actual villain. He is actually doing it in his own accent, but you sort of like treat him as if he's sort of like doing it in sort of like a foreign dialect. Given that there's so many times in sort of like Phoenix Nights, just sort of like, you know, particularly like, hey, what? Banging. It's like, oh yeah, thanks very much. You know, it's sort of like misunderstanding.
Just as long as Kenny Senior plays Ellis.
Oh God. If Ellis is there, and he's there, he only gets that Coke before he gets shot, and he pours it out. But instead of being Coke, it's kamikaze lager. Not alcoholic.
Either that or it's paint. And just sort of like, yeah, Jackie, see ya. Yeah, evidence. I've got your paint for you.
It's served in a burnt vase. So many ideas.
It's like a swing ball set. Just sort of like, yeah, Robert. Yeah.
Or you could make it as well. Though, you could make it with so many sort of Easter eggs as well. You know that bit where he goes. Yeah. They go. There's a room bit where Takagi gets killed.
Yeah.
And there's that room with the model in it. But instead of being the whole cityscape, it's just one big model of the Phoenix Club in the middle of the room. Oh God! Why don't we make this? We make this film.
Yeah, be better than all the parody movies that have come out in like the last decade or so.
Oh, absolutely.
At least ours would actually be fucking funny.
I'll have to find the clip again on YouTube and send it on the group chat.
Oh, please do. Please do. Jesus Christ. Oh, God.
So, yeah, well, I think that concludes the episode, boys. So
I think it does.
Might as well give yourself some plugs.
You want to go with first, Lewis?
Yeah, go ahead. As is probably has been known or I've talked about in very many of my blogs during the Phoenix Pod, myself and very many members of our little podcast group have been doing some lockdown wrestling reviews. Just basically a collaborative wrestling podcast between Coxy's wrestling podcast, Lost Art of Wrestling, and my podcast, the WrestleBox podcast. It's mainly been NWA and like New Japan shows that we've been looking at the moment. The latest episode that dropped last week was the first night of Wrestle Kingdom 14. And we've got like a couple of other shows that we're going to be reviewing for the future. I have got some ideas that are in the pipeline, like possibly bringing some GCW into the fold.
Cox's ears pricked.
Ears pricked. Given sort of like what happened in sort of like WWE the night before, where we're the night before that we're recording this podcast, as sort of like a certain setup. I think a certain blood sport event would make a quite interesting review, to be honest with you. But that's something we might have to discuss further down the line.
Roller cola blood sport, I called it.
Roller cola blood sport. So literally, if you're wanting to check out these Lost Art of WrestleBox reviews, they're available on the Lost Art of Wrestling podcast feed, which is available on all good podcasting sites. And just make sure that you check out Lost Art of Wrestling on Facebook and Twitter. As well as that, I recently started streaming, game streaming on Twitch. I did my first ever Twitch stream last night. Due to the fact the game I was playing, the servers went down for sort of like a couple of hours. I had to cut it short a little bit. But I will look at sort of like I will be looking at doing some more sort of casual throwback, maybe sort of like some fun games to be playing on my Twitch channel. So just search for my profile, twitch.tv/loggers109, and also make sure to follow Loggers109 on YouTube, which is sort of like the main hub where I'll be doing my Let's Play series of sort of the Yakuza Remastered gaming series, which I'll be starting hopefully within the next week or so. Might be a little bit longer. I'm not 100% certain yet. But yeah, check both of them out for good game streaming content.
You see, I've just been replaying through the old Mass Effect games, so that could be something I could film and show people. Bit late in the day now, though. What's Mass Effect 3? But I can always play it again. I don't need an excuse to do that. But yeah, if you want to hear me, you can find me on the not Lost Art of Podcasting, because I usually am on there as well. But you can also find me on the RAD Live podcast. We're on all the available good podcast catchers out there, such as Apple Music, Stitcher, Spreaker, Spotify. Why do they always begin with S, by the way? Just notice that now, railing them off. You can find us on Twitter at UKRAD Podcast, and we're on Facebook as well. Just look for the page. But you can also find my alter ego Steve on Twitter at SteveAOTGTMP, where I tend to take the piss out of Rogar and sometimes Matt, who is also known as Tommy Hawkins. So if you want to follow some general shithousery, you can go on there. But also, yeah, you can also find the show that Steve is on at Treason No on Twitter as well.
And of course, you can find the Lost Art of Podcasting on Facebook, or on Twitter at Lost Art Podcast, Instagram at Lost Art Podcasting. You can find the Lost Art of Wrestling on Facebook and Twitter at LAOW Podcast. And of course, you can find us on Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Castbox, places.
We're everywhere.
We're everywhere.
Wherever your podcast provider, we're probably on it. And if not, give us a shout and we'll get right on there.
And if we're not on them, fuck them.
Yeah, fuck them. They're not worthy of us.
He wants a war, he's got a war.
Oh, God.
Well, that's been episode 11 of the Phoenix Pod.
Working it out very quickly. Yes, it is.
Quick mathematics.
/ episode 4 of that Peter Kay thing, technically, because it's the arena. So join us in a couple of weeks for episode 5 as we look at Leonard, the world's oldest paperboy.
Yes.
I'm a hologram.
You might as well be. Your fucking lighting on is awful.
I know.
Yeah, it's like you filmed FBI files. You're like, I'd rather be anonymous.
I am the greatest WWE World Champion of all time right now.
Vacant.
Vacant. I am vacant.
Oh, dear.
That sums me up pretty most of the time, actually, to be fair, vacant.
Well, for the Phoenix Pod, I've been AXC.
I've been Stupid Sexy Flinders.
And I've been Lewis Ogden. And we'll see you next time on the Phoenix Pod.
Ooh, fancy saying that with a list.